could you tell us a little bit about Crossbones Graveyard?
Well, Crossbones is a pauper's graveyard, but also linked in history and myth with the single women's churchyard, which is described by John Stowe in 1598. The graveyard, the legend is that it was the final resting place for the Winchester geese, the women licensed by the church to ply their trade in the brothels of Bankside, which were owned by the church and yet were denied Christian burial. Later it became a pauper's graveyard, and this myth has given it its identity. It closed in 1853 when it was completely overcharged with dead, as they said, and was pretty much forgotten until the Jubilee Line extension dug up the eastern part of the graveyard in the 1990s, and that seemed to reawake the spirit of Crossbones.
Because they found a lot of bodies here. Is there like 1,000 or 100,000 or?
The Museum of London did a dig shortly before the building of the electricity substation that drives the Jubilee Line, and when they did that dig they removed 148 skeletons. They estimated that that was 1% of the total burials, which makes it approximately 15,000 people buried here, of which they also estimate more than half of those were children.
Oh, right. It's also known as the outcast burial site because these are all unbaptised, is that right?
Yes, that's the name we've used in the sense we created that name, but I mean we call it the outcast burial ground because that includes paupers, sex workers and anyone else who wasn't able to get a decent burial. And of course we first and foremost remember the 15,000 people buried here. That's what our work's all about, but we also remember our own lost loved ones and particularly honour people, for example, suicides, people who lived with mental health problems or addiction problems. So the outcasts, contemporary outcasts, we also honour, and indeed living outcasts come to our vigils on the 23rd of every month at 7 o'clock.
And you also do the Suffolk Mysteries, which was inspired by this site?
Yes, I wrote the Southwark Mysteries beginning on the 23rd of November 1996, and I wrote it over the next 3 years, so it was my big work for the millennium, but it was inspired by Crossbones. I often say, as a writer, as the author of the Southwark Mysteries, my name's John Constable, but John Crow's my shamanic persona, if you like, and I always say that the Southwark Mysteries was revealed by the goose to John Crow, beginning on the night of the 23rd November 1996 and on successive nights. And so that's a work that it was firstly a literary work. It was performed in Shakespeare's Globe, Southwark Cathedral and many venues around this area. But the poems also inspired the vigils and our Halloween of Crossbones rituals, all of which are still going on. So it's very much a living work.
And the goose symbol is very important to this place.
Yes, I'd say yes, the goose is certainly a symbol of this place. To me, she's more than a symbol. She's a living energy, an agency, if you like. When I wrote the poems of the Southwark Mysteries, I was writing them under the direction of the goose. They were really like channeled work that just came pouring through me, and I feel that the goose is the true author, revealing them to John Crow. And I feel that the goose is the spirit of Crossbones, perhaps, and we all work under her protection and with her and for her and through her.